half the reason why Outbuild was so attractive is because you guys have built the software that you want to keep building.
Right now, no one else is doing scheduling and planning, or to the level that we are doing it in one platform.
Well, at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to the people more than the
Right.
product.
What are the challenges you have? How can we help you support with the process?
The iPad app is incredibly useful for foremen and supers out in site.
Spending a lot of time trying to optimize the processes, but if you don't have the right tools for it, it probably was difficult.
We missed how it's affecting our CPM schedule. It became very challenging. It almost required a full-time scheduler.
It's construction. There's stuff changing every day on a job site. There's
Right.
new things happening. The more you could know right away and not a week out, easier it is for you and your teams to make a decision on this.
Tools. It really has been a game changer so far. Things are less reactionary and more looking ahead into the future of how delays can ultimately impact your milestones.
Welcome, Britt. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. So I'd love to start with generic introduction. Tell me more about yourself, your role at Andres, and if you could give us a bit of an intro on the company as well.
Yeah, so I've been with Andres 7-8 years now. Graduated from Oklahoma State in construction science, construction management, and have been working with Andres ever since. Andres predominantly multifamily builders, the hospitality, mixed use, some office space, all in the Texas market. Dallas, Austin, Houston. Our headquarters is in Dallas. That's pretty much it. Like I say, heads in beds. A lot of that kind of work. I
So
started
why construction? You studied construction, and it's a question I like to ask. What got you into construction?
Yeah, so I actually went to school for architecture, is why I went to Oklahoma State. And then promptly within the first week, I realized that I was not as much of an artist as it takes to be a true architect. So, my 18-year-old self said, I'm actually going to go to their construction program. Wanted to kind of actually build stuff. That's what I kind of envisioned an architect would do, would build stuff, and didn't really understand at the time what it took to be a true general contractor or builder. So it was a pretty easy switch, and it kind of from there, it just made sense. So fell in love with it from pretty early on. Oklahoma State's got a great program. They do a lot of hands-on stuff, and spent some summers actually working for Andres. So throughout schooling, I was down here in Dallas, building with Andres, and it's been a blast ever since.
That's awesome, because I remember when I was at Penn State, a lot of us were also doing internships, and I interned with DPR before getting a job there. But you stuck around, so it's probably the reason why, and Andres is taking good care of you.
Yeah. Small company, family company. Kind of know everybody. It's been great to be a part of.
Can you tell us more about your role? What does a day-to-day look like for you now that you're in the role that you're in, and how do you really help support the project teams and the operations?
Yeah, so the first 6 years of being here at Andres, I was in project management, on projects, project engineer, APM, kind of more office work, and then transitioned into this operations technology specialist role. Myself and John Andres, we kind of head up all of our technology, innovation, job site software usage, really. Kind of spend most of my days, I'm about 50-50 split between spending time with project teams in their trailers and their field offices, working with various softwares, of course, Procore. We use Outbuild now, builder, construction site, drone deploy now, all sorts of different tech stacks. I kind of help the teams leverage them to be successful. So a lot of times it's problem solving, it's working with subcontractors that come in and may need some assistance using some of the stuff that we ask them to use. Then other than that, it's kind of in the office, planning out how we can succeed better as a company, understanding problem points, working through different pains that we may have seen in the past and want to get better on. That's kind of the role in a nutshell.
And I can imagine there's a lot of new software technology these days. It's probably difficult to grasp around. This is what we need. This is what can help this fit this, and not a single tool can do it all. So even if you have Procore for project management, they do a lot of things, but then you have to make sure you you map things that fill in the gap. So it's probably a lot of discovery that you have to do on what's out there. And I know John
Oh
is very
yeah.
involved, but you too.
Yeah. It's shoot, I actually have a demo this afternoon with the company. It's that's kind of the fun part. I never really envisioned myself being in the software world, many years ago. And now it's cool because it's like you get the construction expertise, but you get to map it and just search in the SaaS environment. There's so many different construction solutions nowadays. It's kind of fun to go window shop around and learn what all these different people are doing because there's so much out there of cool new gadgets and
Do you
cool solutions.
do you feel like you're getting better at catching the good ones, the bad ones, the good sales guys, the good product? Because there's we see a lot, right? And sometimes it's
Yeah.
you selling a product that's not always where it needs to be. And I'm sure doing a lot of demos and getting all the information that the way you're getting it, it's probably actually fun to see because there's you probably talk to a hundred construction tech startups. Some are
Yeah.
bigger that validate, but there's a lot of smaller startups that probably knock on your door saying, "Hey, Britt, let me show you what I got."
Oh yeah. No, totally. And I mean, it's always fun, like we meet a lot of different people, and at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to the people more than the product, like you said, a bunch of startups, a bunch of small guys getting out there and doing it. And they can be malleable and they're really looking for people to help them kind of build up their
Mhm.
stuff. So oftentimes it's just fun interacting with the different minds that are driving these softwares. I mean, Outbuild's, the obvious example. You guys have a phenomenal team, and half the reason why Outbuild was so attractive is because you guys have built the software that you want to keep building. That's usually what we look for the most.
Yeah,
Nice.
like it's good that it's by definition it's software. It's never complete.
Yeah, right.
So knowing that you want to participate and go through that is always valuable because there's always companies that expect everything to be perfect from day one. It's like, oh, it's a software. There's always going to be new things to build. We'll keep improving. But to kind of bring it back to your exposure, so on the scheduling and field coordination, scheduling and planning world,
Mhm.
you were introduced, I'm sure, at school to some solutions and tools like the main ones, and then you were exposed in the field to different things. I remember at Penn State it was the same. They teach us things at school, and then you get on the job site like, well, my life is a little different than what I had expected because
Yeah.
most of what you do is RFIs and submittals.
Hmm.
But can you tell me a bit more about your exposure to scheduling and planning, some of the solution you've used, and how you grew now into the position you are, and I know you've had quite a lot of turnover at Andres on the solution you've used. So tell us more about that story.
Yeah, so coming right into Andrews, we that was the early days of when we started the lean construction, like pole planning, and we as an intern, our trailer, our whole wall was sticky notes, sub meeting, kind of what a lot of people are starting to do nowadays. It's really beneficial. So it was cool to see the physical getting up and putting sticky notes on the board, physical collaboration. We used Microsoft Project in conjunction to that, of course. Our owner facing schedule was always updated to Microsoft Project from what was updated in the weekly work plans. And then as I, on to the next project, we kind of slowly started to get more and more exposed to digital pole planning, some of the tech solutions that kind of digitize the old sticky notes up on the wall. So we used that for a good while, and found a lot of success using that from our project teams. We still were using project in conjunction with that, and we found it was starting to become challenging, as time goes on, which then kind of brought us into Outbuild. Shoot, it's probably been 18 months now since the first time I met with some of you guys, at Groundbreak. Of course, we kind of saw all of it in one platform, and it was very attractive to say, oh man, it's kind of taken all these silos that we've created through our scheduling processes, and now we have one where everything's all together. Documentation, weekly work planning with subs, and owner facing, schedule reporting.
It was the big picture. Like we have a similar background and approach where I was doing a lot of lean planning when I was a DPR too, and the dream was, why do we use multiple solutions? Because it felt very cumbersome. But I like to bring it back to the challenges you experienced before. Because when we promote Outbuild, there's no need to have a conversation. Is if a client doesn't face a challenge, what are the challenges you have? How can we help you support with the process to eliminate some of those? So if you had Microsoft project for scheduling and a digital planning tool, pool planning tool for your field coordination and look ahead. What were some of the key challenges? What was it causing you as far as impact on your operations that a solution like Outbuild would help prevent?
So prior to having, our like master schedule, owner facing schedule with our milestones that, we're ultimately the project deliverables. When we had those separate from our weekly work planning, it was very challenging to bridge constraints, delays, any sort of change in scheduling that happens just daily, week to week and on a job site. It was hard to kind of branch those and put them into a perfect scenario contract CPM Gantt chart schedule, right? So that was we had learned over many, many projects, like, man, it seems like we keep stubbing our toe on, we missed this one delay that we're capturing at the job site, but we've missed how it's affected our CPM schedule. It became very challenging. It almost required a full-time scheduler on each project. And that's just, we don't have the luxury of a full-time scheduler, especially when we do buy into lean construction practices. Everybody's a scheduler, right? So, enter Outbuild, and being able to still keep that collaborative job site work plan sessions and everything that comes from those gets just directly sent to our master schedules. I mean, it really has been a game changer so far. Things are less reactionary and more looking ahead into the future of how delays can ultimately impact your milestones.
Who was in charge before of making sure they would match? Because you had a high level contract schedule, and then you had the day-to-day that was in a separate solution. What I'm guessing project managers managed the contract schedules, superintendents were running the collaborative planning, but who was in charge of kind of meshing those? Was it your project manager that had to look at the digital pool plan or look ahead plan, and then how much percentage is this there and there? Do I add all the information on that? How is this impacting this? How are you meshing the two?
Yeah, so essentially we kind of created a pretty clear format of our digital pull plan software previously, where each board would, their milestone date would match a milestone in the CPM schedule. And the project manager each month before like a monthly schedule update would have to go and, go right here, make sure they match up. And it worked. It just sometimes there was enough delays that couldn't always get captured. Or if, as we know in construction, schedules do change. So phasing, sequencing, a whole new scope could have been added that wasn't ever initially in that first schedule. So it became kind of, over time, sometimes it became very apples and oranges. So it wasn't as simple as just saying our weekly work plans here. Well, I can't find that in our contract schedule. But it did come down to the project manager just kind of figuring it out and winging it. A lot of gray area, a lot of risk was added.
And it's also what we hear is if your teams are, and I talk to other contractors like yourself, if your teams are really good at communicating, it probably means that they are spending a lot of time making sure all the information is matching. So taking information from project, putting it into your look ahead, and back and forth. And I was talking to a contractor out of Utah, actually was telling me his superintendent spent 3 to 4 hours a week recreating that look ahead based on the Microsoft project and then updating it back, which we know has been status quo for so long in the industry, because we're lucky with Outbuild, we're proposing a solution that right now no one else is doing scheduling and planning or to the level that we are doing it in one platform. So a lot of contractors we talk to saying, yeah, it's business as usual. We know our PMs are going to spend a couple hours a week creating the schedule, then the superintendent another couple hours a week recreating that information into Excel so we could share it with contractors. And then another couple hours taking that information from subcontractors, putting it into Excel, back into Microsoft. And then, like you said, that update might take a month to make that schedule update. So at the end of the month, what happens when you say the milestones are changing? How do we recuperate 4 or 5 days? It's already the 28th. Ouch.
Yeah, right.
And it's not everyone's fault. Sometimes people might get defensive, but it's you did the best with the processes you had, and especially you. I know you've been spending a lot of time trying to optimize the processes, but if you don't have the right tools for it, it probably was difficult. So yeah, I'm curious to see if you had stories on don't have to give specific, but the frustration from superintendents or PM having to do that double work versus now seeing that, oh, I could maybe get a couple hours back, or my time is spent in removing roadblocks rather than updating back and forth the information that's already in there.
Yeah, so I mean, you're exactly right. Like it became a cat and mouse, just chasing each other everywhere, trying to find what schedule is the one that's most up to date, which schedule has got subcontractor buy-in, what sub has superintendent buy-in, owner buy-in. You know, there's so many parties are reading the schedule that when you're trying to balance all those together, you're not even going to come up with a schedule that's realistic or it's going to work. You know, it's constantly like being questioned. It's constantly like being just revised, you know, and now with Outbuild, you know, you can get ahead of it and just create something that you got and work towards that goal. And things are having it one place allows for more consistency with the achievable milestones. You know, you're not just chasing something. Um, so it's we've had a lot of quick success. You know, I think we've been now coming up on 2 months of all projects using it, and the learning curve was shorter than we thought. And for both PMs and supers, you know, that trickles down to the APMs and assistants, of course. But it's been a great experience to watch our teams just realize how intuitive everything becomes to be when it's just one solution.
No, I 100%. And again, they've been so used to do it a certain way that sometimes you don't even see the light because you can't imagine that it's going to be together.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you touched based on, and that's something we come across with every company we talk to, is, you know, having the schedule and the plan that was disconnected created a, you know, massive risk for you because you replan, but you can't always, you might lead to a lot of rework or some delays, which in the end, time is money, right? So you're good at recuperating it and you could prove it to the owner. And like you were saying, it was difficult to bring information from one platform to the other and tell a story. The other thing we see is, you know, it was quite challenging before. And I guess if you use a digital planning tool, probably easier to get subcontractor involvement. But the whole point of using a digital planning tool for you was to drive collaboration and drive contractors. So I'd be curious if you still see this in Outbuild, and how maybe you've seen contractors still being involved into your or your trade partners involved into the planning, and what experiences they've had so far into that with Outbuild.
Yeah. So the iPad app is incredibly useful for foremen and supers out in site. So that I mean that prior to Outbuild, we didn't have an app on your iPad that you could walk outside and go check and see what's going on and what we planned on. We always have, you know, gone through we have like a little bit of an Andrus specific phase plan process. It's kind of our own little version of the lean construction principles where we take sub by sub rather than bringing them into a whole group, sub by sub, and creating their schedule, validating their schedule, working through their milestones from the milestone backwards. We do sub by sub, and then we put it into Outbuild, or previously we put it into previous software. And then in each sub meeting each week, we'll end up actually going through and reviewing it as a whole with everybody. So sub meetings is when subcontractors would see, oh, there's everybody else's schedule overlaid with my schedule. Doing that collaboration has kind of been very effective because each sub knows that their schedule is obtainable to them, and then when you see it in a sub meeting, you see how it's working with everybody else's. Allows for the subcontractor meeting to not be scheduling but purely coordinating, because each sub is fully aware of their schedule. It's just, oh shoot, what you have here and what I have here, we need to coordinate and talk on this floor so that we can effectively complete our work together. It's been nice. I mean, Outbuild does a great job of being able to overlay all this stuff together.
And that's the key point for you to, you know, build as planned, right? If you have the right people in the room to make that call, it's a lot easier. Where I'm sure that's what probably drove you at the time. If you had Excel spreadsheet going into digital pool planning, an Excel spreadsheet, you can't quite collaborate. So people are being fed a plan that then they can probably give you feedback on. And a functionality that I always love, we call it roadblocks. Some companies call it constraints, but the idea of the roadblock and giving the opportunity to a contractor to say, hey, I have a problem, and feel okay to say this just helps everyone out. And it's just admitting that, you know, it's construction, there's stuff changing every day on a job site. There's new things happening. The more you could know right away and not a week out, easier it is for you and your teams to make a decision on this.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally.
Have you had any so I know you had the last planner system mindset and you wanted to get into this coming year. So we've built Outbuild based on this, but we don't always advertise it because some companies are more or less friendly with lean planning, but they'll want to collaborate. So you see it in the structure. I know you touched based on the transition. How did you ensure successful transition, and what processes did you put in place to bring a new solution to your teams? Because nobody likes change. And that's something we
Yeah,
face all the time. Our contractors saying, "Oh, but there's going to be change. I don't want to push through this." So, tell us more about that experience and how you ensure that successful transition.
yeah, of course. Well, the good thing that Andres has is we're very tech savvy. We're very tech forward. That kind of it's bred a culture of innovation all the way down to the job site. It's no surprise to any of our project teams, like, hey guys, we found this solution that's going to really help us on the job site. Guys are pretty they're pretty accepting and willing to step up to a challenge of something new. So having
Did
that force
you,
is
sorry, I'll get back to the help us on the job site. Did you frame how it would help? Because we help contractors, frame
mhm.
that message sometimes, because it's easier for you to sell to your team if you're doing your own sell the way I'm selling it to you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
how did you frame that? What was your way? This is going to help you with those three things. You should take a look at it.
Well, the first thing is we were able to sell our guys that all the work you guys put in the subcontractor meetings where you're tracking changes, you're documenting roadblocks, you're actually creating an as-built schedule week to week. All that work you're doing in those meetings is directly fed into our contract schedule. So there's no more question about what happens if there's a delay, what happens if we're ahead of schedule. Prior to Outbuild, we didn't have a tool that would automatically tell you you're behind. This is what's going to be impacted. You're ahead. This is what you can now start sooner than you thought. So just simply showing project teams in real time how you will be able to do that in Outbuild. I mean, people got excited. Like this, it really was. It's when we implemented Outbuild, it was the software that people were the most excited about. I have not seen assistant superintendents light up for a new piece of software like they did for Outbuild. Because just like you said, they're quick to shy away from change.
Yeah, any excuse, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
human nature. Any excuse that I'm already busy, I'm getting there, and I guess for them it probably was, okay, it will make my life easier. And is that personal pain that I am so sick of having to do double work. I'm so sick of having to constantly update everybody. Like, it feels broken. So I'm, you get that excitement because they felt like there was a win for them. That's, everybody's supposed to be winning somehow to want to push for change. That's
Oh
like
yeah,
human behavior.
yeah.
Anything else? So that was the key point for you, like that connection and saying we'll be able
Oh
to
yeah.
just track it all in one place. How about you on the management side? Because before you had Microsoft Project to look at a schedule, and then if you wanted information on how this was trending, you would receive an update once a month, right? Or you had to
Mm-hmm.
dig into the full planning software. How is that helping you and John and the operation team getting live access to everything that's going on? Just the way, probably the same reason as you got Procore, you could see everything in real time, but you were missing that scheduling component.
Yeah, no. Before Outbuild, it felt like we were chasing people's project files, Microsoft project files, and you'd go into our servers and try to find which file had the most recent date, or if it was the correct version that you were pulling up, and now with this one you can purely just click on it and you see that baseline plus or minus date next to the turnover milestones in Outbuild. You can flip through it pretty easily. So I mean, it's been from a corporate management standpoint, checking in on projects is significantly easier because the information is accurate, up to date, and the one they're really using. There's no more fighting 1,000 files or all the other junk that comes with just chasing a bunch of siloed information.
Awesome. Yeah, it's something that again people get used to, right? Where's the file? Which file is it? What version is it? Oh, let me save it again so you could get access to it. And
Yeah.
then and then you wait a month. So if you're running operations the way you are and John, it's what's important is that you keep customers happy, you finish project on time,
Right.
and you come in as a coach, as a teacher. It's like, okay, here's what's going on. There's maybe an issue. What could we do to help you guys out? But if you don't have the access to that information, it just creates more risk for you.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
On the Procore side, so I know big users of Procore. How is that helping you right now? We have different integrations that people leverage more or less. One of the ones that you probably sweat on a lot was the procurement tracking, having the separate Excel spreadsheet and so on that we were building. So I'd be curious to see, which of those integration you see is most beneficial and how you've been implementing it on your teams.
Yeah. So we probably use the RFI to Roblox integration the most. I mean, of course, we push our schedules to Procore, but to me, that's just pushing something. It's not necessarily pulling stuff in. We use the Roblox probably more because our teams are so used to finding constraints, finding roadblocks, finding changes that derive from design, owner, architect, city, whatever outside factors come into play to our schedule. So we're a shop that's very aware of what can affect a schedule. And because of that, we use the submittals, but really not, I don't know, we've tend to be so far out of submittal schedules, knock on wood, that it's not even necessarily, we hit a project and the first thing we do is submittal schedule, get rolling with it. So it's almost like, yeah, old news, submittal's already closed by the time they become a schedule thing. But as we get more and more projects starting up and using Outbuild from the beginning, we transitioned a few months ago. So most projects are kind of post submittal stage at this point. It's definitely something that's going to come into play using the submittals.
The RFI, so RFI is tying to roadblock. The roadblocks are really a way to flag an issue, and if that doesn't get resolved, explain why you might have had a delay. Before, if you didn't have that connection to the schedule, you had to tell the story. You didn't have quite the tracking. How have you been maybe able to leverage saying that RFI was tagged needed for this activity? We did not get the answer on time. This is impacting our schedule, telling the story of how you now might have a schedule delay to the owner and explaining in a transparent fashion that it wasn't your fault. Have you had examples there, or do you see yourself using that solution to better document change?
Yeah, I mean, it essentially creates, as long as I've worked at Andrews, we've always had a constraint log. Usually it's been in Excel. You have an active list of, hey, communicating with your owner once a month or however often is needed to say, this is constraining our work. We need to get an answer. Hey, FYI, XYZ happened. This is a constraint. Having that pre-populated into our schedule automatically, and then it tying to both a task and look at it, and then what task is affected in the activity. It's clear. There's no more trying to dig through and update a constraint log. It's kind of just back to that mentality of everything's happening live. There's no rework or chasing down information from one platform to another. So it's been really helpful. I mean, I don't know if we have too many specific examples because it's just something that we always discuss and review.
You used to do, yeah.
Yeah, it just happens. Our guys are pretty natural using roadblocks and constraints.
Do you have owners, designers, other parties that added into Outbuild so you could tag them as well to those roadblocks, or are you keeping it internal right now?
It's internal right now. We have owners just now, like in the past couple of weeks, have started to get login to view things. I don't know if they've really gotten tagged into roadblocks though.
Do you ever review the roadblocks log during an OIC meeting? Is it what kind of information do you share during those meetings?
During the OICs, we'll usually walk through just the milestone tracking.
Okay. So key milestones, potential impacts, and just showing out. We've heard stories of superintendents just having that roadblocks log, and they could assign the designer and so on to some of the action item just to go through we at DPR we had the same. We had a to-do action item that we would assign the owner and the designer and so on. We need this in order to keep moving. So we've seen more and more teams doing this in the roadblock log and just pulling it up so that the owner would say, okay, if I don't get that answer, it's pushing that task, that's pushing this activity. So, they're visualizing the impact to the schedule sometimes a little better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's something that our goal is to end there. Like as we build up the people's confidence in how to use roadblocks and really just software in general, that's definitely will be used. Like just
Yeah.
directly printing our old constraint log just directly from the roadblock list.
You were also saying something about, a lot of when you transition, most of your products were already in construction. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Contractors we talk to sometimes say, "Oh no, a product that's halfway through, no way, we don't want to change this." We'll tell them it's very easy to transition because you could just import your file and get through it. But um, was there any blockers for you as far as doing the transition from the team, or it felt pretty easy to just bring in the information and get going? As far as no matter if it was a new job or something that's halfway through, I'm curious on the maybe the resistance on the transition and how easy it was for you.
Yeah, so the transition was actually a lot simpler than we had thought. It also kind of really shined to light some of the realities that happen whenever you have Microsoft Project and a digital pull plan software not talking to each other. Because essentially the steps to onboarding onto Outbuild was take your Microsoft Project file, upload it into Outbuild, and go from there. Start building out your lookahead. Well, we had a lookahead fully built out with our previous platform. So whenever we uploaded the project file, we realized that it wasn't apples to apples. You couldn't just put all the tasks that we had already created in our previous solution into the lookahead tab or into the correct activity in the lookahead. So we found like, oh man, like there's actually parts of our contract schedule that we haven't even fully vetted. We haven't fully built out yet. So it's kind of interesting to see just people's gears turning when they start uploading and onboarding and going, oh, look, guys, we need to work here. We need to work here. We didn't realize that there was an opportunity to speed up the schedule here. So, I want to say, like, within a matter of days of using Outbuild, project teams were already, as a team, collaborating on how to improve their schedule. And we didn't have that prior to. The onboarding process was like I was saying earlier, very it was amazing to watch because people were excited to get in and use it. People were like, "Okay, guys, let's have a meeting all afternoon. Let's work on schedule."
Nice.
Seldomly do you see a project team get amped up to spend a whole afternoon looking at a schedule. So it was cool to be a part of and see. Ended up yielding a great product for each uh, project, and I'm even more curious to when all those project members start their next project. I mean, I'm excited to see them go from scratch, because we kind of had to back into it, so it's a little bit of an anomaly situation. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been really good, successful.
What are you most hopeful about? You've taken the lead with John to implement a new solution, so you're always kind of putting your neck on the line, saying, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
pushing for this." Things are going well. If you look back in a year, we'll sit down in a year, but like, okay, let's look back and what were the true benefits, and it's something you could quantify, saying, we've invested money in there. Did it help us finish project early? Do we just see overall our teams being happier and maybe saving times? Did we avoid delays on job? Like, what do you think will be, if you had any hindsight, the,
Um,
the, the key things that you'd be proud of?
I think what I'd be the most proud of is when I start to see junior team members become lead schedulers. Scheduler is a loose term. We don't really have schedulers, but so often in the past, you have your project manager and his contract schedule. That's it. You sometimes the younger guy on the team wasn't even allowed to really mess with it or use it. Yeah, it's going to be it's I'm already seeing it now, but seeing a guy who just came out of school and he's the one kind of forecasting, starting to look ahead and go, hey guys, like, this is here, this is here. Let's make a change here. Look what we can do here. Having Outbuild is creating those light bulb moments, and I've already seen it a bunch. Um, the project's finish dates, removing constraints, all the stuff that naturally happens, that's going to come with someone who's involved with schedule. But finishing ahead of schedule only comes if you know schedule. And Outbuild has made a solution that lets anybody be comfortable with a schedule.
It's funny how you've you've been through that transition of realizing some companies still build very detailed schedules, and then you have a disconnected look ahead. you've been through that realization of, well, we can't build a schedule that detailed because stuff changes. So the more
Mhm.
detail we put in, the more we're hurting ourselves. So I know you simplify your schedule. You have a phase contract schedule. So it feels like it's twofold. We've heard customers saying, well, first, it makes it easier for me to plan and replan because managing links and relationship, that's when companies hire schedulers because it's
Right.
very difficult. And also, it's sometimes it makes it easier for you in a relationship with the owner because you don't feel like you're failing the owner every other day because stuff is changing. The more detail you give them, the more likely they are to come get you. Saying, oh, that door on June 25th, you didn't install it. Like, oh,
Right. Yeah,
but we're
right,
still
right.
finishing the floor on time. So we hear this a lot where sometimes companies are concerned about, oh, I need to simplify my schedule. I don't know how to do it because they'll pack everything into Microsoft Project. So I'd be curious maybe on the last note on how, what your experience has been to say, simplify your schedule, planning a look ahead module that is connected or disconnected, right? If you want to do planning on the side, but the benefits of this, you've been through those. So, I'd be curious on your experience on that, going from detailed schedule to simplified schedule, collaborative look ahead, and now everything in one. Um, and see how did you see that change with your teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like you said, when the detail schedule has so much detail that you can't really make any changes, right? Everything is supposed to be exact to the date. Um, what I've seen in the past is having those schedules, people are quick to just put their hands up in the air and say, "Oh, this schedule is already not working," or "This schedule doesn't make sense," or "That schedule's old. Let's not use it. Let's reinvent the wheel." It kind of closes the door for people to think about schedules. You immediately write it off. What are projects now that have very more broad activities, they actually go in there and are able to maneuver things, think through things, work on things, and like you said, the end date is the exact same, or it's even better. They've thought of better ways. So it just opens the door to be more approachable in schedules when things are simpler. And guys have definitely had that same feedback.
What is your best practice as far as shortest activity, longest duration? Do you have a framework you tell the team, keep it maximum that length, minimum that length, so we could, have enough phases, but you still need to provide milestones to the owner. You still need to be able to track to something. So what
Right.
is that best practice for Andres?
So we've always had like a kind of our work breakdown structure of the different phases of work. We don't have a hard fast, like it can't be more than 50 days or it can't be under 5 days. That rule of thumb applies. If it is 100-day activity, there's probably a way that you can break that up into elevations or sections or whatever. But what we do most importantly is, the key phases, earthwork, utilities, structure, framing, MVP rough, finishes, exterior,
Yeah.
so but that's typically how we break stuff down. And then it's dependent on the project size, what exactly type of building we're delivering to actually break down further in that. And that's what I like about it. I keep going back to projects with that light bulb moment of using schedules. When you create a schedule with all those phases in it, and that's it. You just give it to a project and say, here you go. It gives them the opportunity to say, oh, okay, like let's look at the drawings. Let's get in here and start scheduling. That's like create a schedule that we know that we can actually own and build. And again, that's my favorite part of watching is watching the guys go, this is what we know is going to work. This is what we're staying with.
And it's probably also tenfold on the contractors, so the subs you work with, saying, okay, these are the milestones we need to hit, but now I'm actually being asked, how are we going to build this? I'm
Right.
sure your superintendents, no superintendents is a master of everything. Some came from different trades, but you just need to be a master at getting information from your partners. So I've seen it when I was doing software from concrete at DPR, just asking my foreman, okay, we're going to be doing that slab on grade. Schedule says about 25 days. How do we get to that? It's like, oh, you're
Right.
not telling me how to do it. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. You tell me, and then I'll
Yeah.
tell you what our
Right.
contract says, and I'll make sure I'm providing you the resources you need to. And you always get that light bulb of subs. I've been used to being told what to do. That's why they completely disengage sometimes. They're like, okay,
Right.
yeah, give me a schedule. I'll do what I want anyway because I know how to build.
Yeah, totally. And like, I mean, that right there is such a problem with construction in general and how schedules are built. Like so often schedules are built prior to the job even gets signed. Somebody in an office 6 months before we even start a project says this is what's going to be built. Drawings may not be developed yet. The final plans aren't even there. So whenever you schedule that way, you get to the job site and just like you're saying, the sub's kind of writing it off. I'm just going to do this the fastest I can. Creating a schedule and Outbuild that allows the schedule to be finalized and fine-tuned at the job site with all members involved creates just a lot more success and a lot more confidence in the schedule itself.
Awesome. Well, I think that will wrap it up, Brett. I know we have
Cool.
15 minutes left. I don't know if Lee you had anything else, but this was great conversation. I love that it's, very focused on the field and that application. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, or if Lee, you wanted to ask any question, but that was awesome.
Everything's covered.
Yeah,
Everything's
awesome,
covered.
awesome.
Thank you, Brett. That was great.
Yeah, of course.
It's good to hear it after you've been working hard during the transition, and just getting that heart to heart on it. We know it's not that hard, but some contractors are just terrified of the change, and it's the more we could share messages from people saying it's gonna be okay, we've done it. It was actually easy, because I don't want to hear it from me, sadly.
We were so nervous. I mean, we didn't even plan on switching mid projects. We were always like, man, we can't do that. It's gonna be tough. But it's been nice once you get over the initial learning curve. All the guys in the field either say, yeah, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, you're just putting in when to start and when you finish, and you're able to see it on the little Gantt chart. Some people are saying that, or they're saying, wow, this is way easier. It's like actually it makes sense. So it's been nice, and I'm serious when I say like Outbuild is probably the only software that we've had that people genuinely are excited to be like, no, I want to use that. Put that on my project. Like I get someone walking to my office every day. Hey, we add me a word on Precon. Like, can you add me to Outbuild so we can create a project? I want to start messing with it. Or I actually want to. Rarely. So there's too many times that people are trying to skate away from doing the new thing. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna just hide in the shadows and just not do the new thing.
And it's funny because you've set up a team to, I think, create that willingness to change.
Mm-hmm.
The culture you have at the company. We hear sometimes other, not horror stories, but like people are just so against everything. They're like, oh, no, we've had people saying, oh, it's way harder to use a Microsoft project. I'm like, okay, well, walk me, what is harder to use the Microsoft project?
No
what is
shot?
And what I tell people is like, what I hear is you might not have the time and you don't want to get into this, which is okay. But the product is really, it's just to support for collaboration. Whatever you use, now it's saving you time, it's helping you document better, which is awesome, right? But if you could provide a product that people actually want to use, you come in the morning not feeling like, oh shit, I gotta do my schedule update. Oh boy, don't want to do that.
Right.
Just happens as you do it. That's great. Sometimes I'm jealous that I don't get to use it on an actual job, because I had those issues. I helped build it, and I'm like, maybe I'll go on a project for 6 months and just use it.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool to watch. It's awesome. Like, so Perlos is our only project they're our furthest project along that has started organically from Outbuild. And it's awesome to see the PM go in there, and I'll hang out in his office and he'll just do a quick little update. It takes him 2 seconds. It goes, oh yeah, my look ahead shifted by a week. Now framing finished a week earlier. And like you eventually see it and it's like, yeah, there we go. Like your milestone is you're now 20 days ahead or whatever it may be. It's like, there it is. It's all right there. Print it and ship it off.
You can kind of also gamify it, seeing the red and green, saying, oh, I need to stay in the green. I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, totally. Stay in the green, man. You better stay in the green. And if you don't, you better have a reason.
That should be the title of this interview, Lee. You better stay in the green.
You better stay in the green. Yeah. I mean, it's such, I don't know if it's the same with all their contractors, but man, there's just so like people had such a hard time updating Microsoft project schedules. Like it's just, like there was a mental block that the people couldn't accurately do it. Sometimes we just shut down and maybe even make updates, who knows, but now it's like people are watching it and they're realizing, oh wow, like I can schedule, like I have the power to schedule, like I'll hear people in our office from time to time go, we need to hire a corporate scheduler. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you do not. We do not need that. Like I'm telling you, there's no sense in doing that. The job sites can do it.
We talk to so many companies that have those corporate schedulers, and then whenever we get to the conversation, they see us as the enemy, right? We're like, oh no, oh boy, like you guys help my life. Some have come saying, well, I don't want to be telling people what to do. I'll just help the project team. So some schedulers we work with now, a company that rings a bell, McAlvin, actually let go of P6, which we weren't expecting, to use Outbuild because the corporate schedule, like I'm sick of building schedules for everybody. Like I'll help you build it. I'll give you guidance on how to do it because the guy was a superintendent before, so maybe
Mhm.
that's why.
Yeah.
And then started just being like, oh wow, yeah, I let my teams do it. I'm here to support.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I am now. I am by no means a scheduler. I'm just a guy that's helps them with any sort of software solution. And Outbuild's been easy to show them it, and it's like you run with it. This is your schedule. Like it's hard to mess up.